Hello, my most amazing artist. I hope you're doing fabulous today. I'm really excited because today we're going to be entering into the third dimension and learning how to take a piece of paper that's flat and making a cake that appears to be coming out of the paper. We're going to draw it in the third dimension, 3D. But before we do, let's say our art class catchphrase. I make messes. I make mistakes, but deep inside, I got what it takes. I am an artist. Great, guys. All right, big shout out to our sponsors, Ticonderoga and Art to Remember. Today I'll be using some of Ticonderoga's art supplies, some of the stuff that I really love, like their paper, which is called Pagan Mixed Media Paper. I'll be using some of their markers that are called Praying, and I'll even be using their permanent marker, which is called Ready Sharp. It's also by Ticonderoga. You guys should check them out. Thank you so much for sponsoring. We're going to be making artwork today that you'll want to remember forever, and what better way to do that than Art to Remember? I set up my own account just last night. It took me less than 2 minutes. I did it on the phone, and then as soon as it was set up, I took a picture of my work of art and uploaded it into my very own online art gallery. Amazing. Now I can see all the different things that I can have my artwork printed on. You might want to check it out. It's pretty fabulous. Art to Remember, Ticonderoga, thanks for sponsoring, guys. All right, so for today, we are making some cakes. Look at that. You could make a tiered cake like this one, maybe a wedding cake or a birthday cake. You could make a cake like this with lots of rainbow icing and chocolate because, hello, it's gotta be a chocolate cake. Or maybe you wanna make a unicorn cake. I'm gonna show you how to make all of these different kinds of cakes. We are going to be using all of the elements of, that's right, art today. So let's go through them. Line, shape, color, baby, color, form, value, texture, and space. Pinkies out, peeps. I pinky promise that today I will do my best. I will finish what I start, and I will keep a positive attitude. Air kisses, people. Mwah. All right, we're gonna start with paper and pencil. So why don't you grab those things first and we'll get rolling. Today we're going to be drawing some delicious looking cake, and it's going to be three-dimensional. I'll be drawing a layered or stacked cake here and a cake with a lot of yummy looking icing over here. You can pick one or the other to draw, or if you like, you could go ahead, grab two pieces of paper and draw both with me. I'm gonna move both of these out of the way. I'm using a regular old piece of paper. Sketchbook paper is a little bit thicker, so it works a little nicer, especially when you start painting. And I'll be drawing with a marker. If you want to, you could draw with a pencil. That way, if you draw something you're not happy with, you can always erase. When you're finished drawing with a pencil, then you could trace over those lines with your permanent marker. I'm actually going to be drawing with my pencil a little bit and my marker because there's some things that later I might want to change or erase. All right, so the basis for drawing this cake is we have to draw a cylinder. If this were a cake and you were looking at it from the top, you would know that the top of the cake that we're drawing is round like a circle. But we're not going to be showing the point of view from the top. We're showing the point of view, or perspective is what it's called, from the side. And for that reason, we have to do something called foreshortening. Instead of drawing the cake like a circle, we're going to be drawing it like an oval, with this part being in the back, this part being in the front. So we're gonna get really good at drawing cylinders for this. So to start, I'm going to be drawing my layered cake first. When I draw my layered cake, I'm going to start near the top of my paper. I'll leave a little room, I think, for a candle. So think about how much space you might want there. Once you've got that, I think it'll start here. I need to decide how wide I want my cylinder to be. So I know I don't want to make it too wide because my cake is going to have two more layers that will get bigger. So decide how wide you want it to be. I think I'll use 2 fingers outstretched, making like a peace sign, 2 fingers outstretched, not near the top. I'll put 1 dot there and 1 dot there, right above my fingers. to create the top of the cylinder to show that my cake has foreshortening, I'll bring a line that goes down, over, and up. It's kind of like a very small smile. And now I'll do a mirror image of that line going back, up, over, and back. Awesome. Now we've just drawn a foreshortened circle, otherwise known as an oval, or you could even call it an ellipse because it's kind of a squished oval shape. Now I need to decide on the height, how tall I want this layer to be. So I think I'll draw two lines that come straight down like verticals, keeping in mind that I also want to make two more layers and a plate. So now, do you see this curved line I made here? I'm going to repeat this curve right there. And would you look at that? We have just created the basis of our cake. Okay, now I'm gonna switch gears and hop over here and work on this cake. If your focus is on this one, you could always zip through this video and go to the parts where I'm just drawing this cake. Right now, I'm gonna take a moment and focus a little bit on drawing this one. Now, when I draw this cake, I will be drawing it with a pencil because there's going to be some lines that I will need to erase. I know it might be difficult to see my pencil lines, so I'll be drawing really dark with a dark value. I recommend you draw with a light value. The reason is because it will be easier for you later on to erase. If you draw with a dark value and you press really hard, it's a little bit tricky to erase. So the first thing you'll need to do is decide how wide do you want the top of your cake to be. It's going to be wider than the other one. And I'm gonna make an I love you with my hand. You might even want to stretch your hand out completely because you have smaller hands than me. I'm gonna go with this width. So decide how wide you want it to be. Notice I left some space at the top for the candles. And I'll repeat that same process. I'm making my lines a dark value so you can see them. You might want to draw those lightly. All right, now that I have this complete, I'm going to draw this line, but notice that there's a little bit of a bump right there. It's okay, we're gonna take out that slice of cake shortly, but now I'm gonna start by making that same kind of curve that I did before for that foreshortened line. It's that little tiny smile. And then I'll make a line that's a mirror image just like I did before, going back. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and make the rest of the cylinder of the cake. So now you have to decide the height of your cake. So I think I want the height to be pretty long. I don't know if I want it to go all the way down to the bottom of my paper, but you know what? This is your cake. You can do whatever you want. I think, let's see, I want it to be about this long. I just pulled my finger straight down in a vertical line, put a little dot there, and then I want this one to be the same line that goes over and down. So I just made it as wide and I made a vertical line. And now I'll repeat the process, but first I'm gonna make a vertical line that goes straight down to that dot. Boom! Straight down to that dot. And it looks like I missed my dot, and that's okay. Maybe that dot wasn't in the best place in the first place. Oof, don't you hate it when erasers leave a little mark like that? That's okay. All right, now next step, I'm going to do this curve right here. It's going to be parallel to that one. And would you look, you've just created a cylinder. Now, if you were making a glass and this were transparent or see-through, you would repeat that process of drawing another line right there. But I'm pretty sure your cake is not see-through, it's opaque, so we're gonna leave it just like that. It's opaque cake. All right, now I'm returning to this cake and I'm going to go ahead and work on my next layer. Let me share with you what it looks like. So now I have to decide how wide I want my next layer to be. Notice how it's near the base of this first layer. So I'm gonna make a little, maybe I'll do it 2 fingers away from that corner. Put a little dot, boop. 2 fingers away from that corner, little dot, boop. Now this curved line is what I'll be drawing here. It's going to run parallel to this one. Down, over, and up. Now I'll bring the line back, but it will not continue behind the cake because the cake is not see-through, right? So I'm gonna go back and stop, hop over the cake and come over there. Now, just like we did on this cake, we need to decide the height of this layer. So I made it, not too tall, maybe right to about there. Put a little polka dot. Bring my fingers straight down. Put a little polka dot. 2 vertical lines. Boom. Boom. And now I will connect just like that. Now, when I add this next layer, I'm gonna switch to a pencil because I will be taking a little slice out of this cake. So, I bet you can probably figure out how we're going to do this. Determine the width. Put a couple polka dots. Connect. I'm drawing nice and dark with my pencil so you can see. You might want to use a lighter value so it's easier for you to erase. And back. Back. And now let's determine the height. Let's see, I could make this layer pretty tall. I'm going to go ahead and pull my finger down. Polka dot. Pull my finger down. Polka dot. That one looks a little shorter. Let's see how it goes. Vertical line coming straight down. It's almost like a little wedding cake, isn't it? And down. And connect. Easy. This kind of drawing is a piece of cake. That means it's really easy, in case you've never heard that saying before. All right, now let's work on those plates. The plate is very similar to what we've been doing to this, right? It's a circle that we're going to foreshorten and make into an ellipse or an oval. Determine the width of your plate. I'm gonna have mine be almost as wide as my paper. Connect. And if I'm going too fast, just hit that pause button and connect. But you might have noticed there's a lot of steps that repeat, right? It's a lot of the same steps. If you wanted to make an Abraham Lincoln hat, look at that. Looks like we know how to do it. Now let's take a slice out of this cake. Oh, I guess I could add a plate here since we know what to do. Determine the width. Connect. I got so excited about taking a slice out of that cake, I was putting this one just on the table. Heavens, you gotta have it on some sort of plate. All right, now let's take a slice out of this cake. So to do that, find the middle of this oval or elliptical shape and put a little polka dot. Once you've got that, draw a line that goes straight down to the bottom. Perfect. Now I want you to draw an arrow. This is the top of the arrow. Make a diagonal line there and a diagonal line there. Perfect. Do you see your arrow? Awesome. From the sides of your arrow, let's bring these lines straight down with a vertical. Straight down with a vertical. Sweet. Now, do you see this arrow you made here? To show that that slice goes back into space, we have to repeat that arrow right here. I'll show you. So starting here, I'll go up, making a line that's parallel to this one, meaning it does the same thing. Starting here, I'll go like that. Now, there's a couple of lines I have to erase. I'll be erasing this and this. So I'm erasing this vertical and this horizontal, creating the illusion that my cake goes back into space. You can see it, can't you? Get rid of some of those lines. There we go. Now you see why we drew with a pencil. Do you know what lines to erase here? This and that. You got it. We're just erasing these two lines right there. Perfect. Now I have a cake that looks like it's going back into space. Now, while I finish this one, you might want to put some icing on your cake. So here's how I do that. I'm going to put a lot of layers of icing with the wavy line, hop over my cake, and notice how my layer or my icing started here and came away from the cake, making it a little wider, which means we'll have to do a little bit of erasing. If you drew very lightly, like your pencil is tickling your paper, then it will be easy for you to erase. All right, I'll do that again. Depending on how many layers of icing you want, you could make a birthday cake. You could make a unicorn horn at the top to turn this into a unicorn cake with a couple of ears. What kind of dream cake can you design? You get to be the cake designer. How exciting is that? When you're finished drawing these lines, think about the ones that don't belong in your drawing anymore because your cake is not see-through, and erase them. And if you accidentally erase some of your pencil lines, go ahead and add those back on. Now, if your cake is finished, you could grab your permanent marker and start to trace. There's just one more thing I need to do, and that's to add the layers. Again, if you're sitting patiently waiting for me to do this, go ahead and zip through the video while I finish this cake. I'm gonna have a 3-layer cake, but I'm going to be repeating this diagonal. I'll put a layer here with some icing in between. I'll put a layer there with some icing in between. Yes, this looks delicious. I'm repeating the same steps over here. Diagonal, diagonal. This time I'm running my lines parallel to that one at the top. Beautiful. If your cake is finished, go ahead and trace. We'll talk about candles in a moment. For now, I'm going back to this one. Now, if you just watched me here, I bet you can figure out how we're going to take a slice out of this cake here. All we're doing, I'm just gonna put the slice here, and I'm going to be putting a little polka dot in the center at the base of that second cake, making a line that goes straight down, and then we're turning it into an arrow to show that we've cut into the cake, diagonal, diagonal. It's a little sliver of cake that we're cutting out here. Vertical line down, vertical line down, awesome. And then we're repeating that angle that we made here, here. Diagonal, diagonal. Look and see what does not belong. The bottom of this vertical and the horizontal of the cake. This curved line right here, and just erase them away. There we go. Great, now we can add layers. Now, if you want to add a lot of layers to make a rainbow cake, I'm just repeating this diagonal line. Let's see how many I made. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll do a mirror image of those diagonal lines, making sure they are parallel to the top and bottom. Great job. Now we've just taken a cute little slice of cake out of this one. Now let's add, icing, silly me. Any way you want to do it. Of course, you are the decorator of this cake. You get to design your very own. It's up to you. I'm going with this nice drippy kind of frosting or icing. There we go. Great. Now, let's talk candles if you wish to add them. Honestly, I bet you could figure out how to make them just by looking because there are cylinders too. We've been drawing so many cylinders. So start with an oval. That oval will determine the width of your candle. If it's easier, you could do it the way we have been doing by drawing 2 polka dots first, and then connect and connect. Oops, that one got a little tall, didn't it? Good thing I'm using a pencil. When you're drawing these candles, notice that I'm showing space by having one be up here and these 2 a little lower. That's showing space in my artwork. All right, I think I'll have one that's burned down quite a bit, so it's gonna be a little shorter than the other ones. There we go. Now I have to determine the height of the candle by making my lines come down. And they have to meet the cake, even cross over into the cake a little bit, and then close. Now my candles are not see-through, so I bet you can figure out what line I need to erase. All right, I'm bringing this down and close. Yep, unless you have magical glass candles, which if you do, I want to know where you got them from. I'm gonna erase those. Look at that, those are some really big candles. To add my fire, I'm gonna add the wick. Ooh, maybe they just got blown out. You could add a little bit of smoke or a little curve, like almost like a teardrop shape that's bent. The cool thing about a little flame is it can be going this way or that way. There's no right way to draw those in. And now I didn't leave a lot of room on this cake, so maybe I'll just leave this one plain. Okay, now let's give this a table to sit on with a horizontal line that hops over the cake. And you are ready to add color. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and trace your lines with a Sharpie or with a permanent marker. I'm using a Ready Sharp by Ticonderoga. You could do that, and then you could start to color. I'm only gonna be tracing one cake and working from there. I like to do a little something called tracing and erasing. That means I'm tracing with a permanent marker and then erasing any of my peekaboo pencil lines. Next up, I'm using crayons to color the background, using a variety of values, sometimes by pressing hard with my crayon and then lightly. Now, coloring markers. Notice when I add color, I'm only doing it around the edges. Of course, I'm going lightning fast, so you might want to hit the pause button so you can really see what I'm up to. All right, now that I'm all finished coloring my background with crayons using a variety of value, and then coloring my cake with my coloring markers, I've got my paintbrush and a cup of water. Now, if you did a cake like this, hopefully you were able to color it any way you want to, and you might notice that this one is a unicorn cake. While I'm painting this one, let's talk about the shapes that I used to create this unicorn cake. It was pretty easy. Using that cake that you already know how to draw, I just used a very tall triangle for the horn. Then I used two smaller, wider triangles for the ears. And then lastly, I added some eyelashes. I drew it all with a pencil first so I could make adjustments or changes if I wanted to. And then I colored it and painted it like I'm doing right now. So I say painting, but I'm actually not using any paint. I'm making my own paint. By simply adding water to those marker lines, I'm waking up that marker and creating paint. Hopefully you made sure to color a couple of rows of those marker colors. That way, as you add the water, it will make a really bold and colorful paint. Now, what I've noticed is this. Some colors work great when you add water. Some colors don't show up as well. And most of all, the water needs a little bit of time to sit still and dry. That way it can continue making some of these colors into paint. So if it doesn't happen for you right away, here's a trick. Try massaging your damp brush over the marker for just a moment and then pulling that color toward the white area. And then also just know that the longer it sits there, the more saturated in color, the darker it will be. All right, when I'm finished adding water to this, I'm gonna let it sit. I don't know what kind of accent that was. I'm gonna let it sit and dry and then come back and then find a good place in my home to hang this delicious looking rainbow cake. I hope that you had so much fun making a 3-dimensional cake. I'm curious to know which kind you made. If you made the unicorn or even just a rainbow cake, you made a layered cake. Could you now, when it dries, write somebody's name on the cake, give it to maybe mom or dad, wish somebody a happy birthday or for other special occasions? You might want to think about that now that you know how to draw this amazing looking cake. All right, guys, I'm going to finish up here, and I hope that you had a whole lot of fun.